So I apologize. I missed last week. Last weekend was a little bit crazy for me. I started to have these really awful back problems, which I've been doing a little bit of work towards. So I'll share all of that with you soon. I also had a splitting headache all weekend. I've had this big event with work coming up. So I've been stressed about that and working a lot more than I usually need to. Our house has also been in construction for almost a year and we're almost done, but it's currently a disaster because every room is in transition. So we have a lot going on. And on top of all that, it's also just around, or a couple of weeks ago was the election. Now, I don't spend a ton of time paying attention to the election, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But because I know a lot of people stress about the election, I did want to talk about stress this week. So if you're stressed when you're pregnant, unfortunately, the baby is experiencing that as well. And the problem with this is the baby starts to prepare itself for stress outside of the womb. So it's really preparing itself for the worst case scenario, and that's really not what you want to do. What's happening in your body when you're stressed is your cortisol level rises and your progesterone level can fall. And this puts your baby into defense mode rather than growth mode. And we really want to keep the baby growing, not preparing for doomsday. Unfortunately, also, on top of even just, the little stressors of the world, most people these days are experiencing chronic stress, and most people don't really know it just because it's kind of become our way of life, which really isn't great. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if this was the reason for most people having anxiety these days. There is a lot of research that says what the baby experiences in the womb is determining what the baby is going to experience throughout their lifetime. So if you want your child to be able to take things on with gusto, I highly recommend trying to decrease your stress levels, especially while you're pregnant. So I'm talking about this week primarily because I've been seeing a ton of people stress about the election. And my suggestion for you, especially if this is you or if you're on Facebook all the time, and I know at least everybody that I know this is all they're talking about. So my suggestion is to kind of check out. The election is over, or at least everything that you could have personally done to have a say. You did maybe, but that's a vote, right? So if you voted, you can feel good. You did your part to sway the election whichever way you want. And unfortunately, unless you are a lawyer and work for either of the parties, you can't really do much. So if you continue to watch the news and stay involved and get really into, oh no, what's happening? Somebody's suing this Pennsylvania this week. There's really no use in that. So it's in somebody else's hands. Totally pointless to stress about things that you can't control. So what you should be trying to focus on is the things that you can control, and I guarantee you and your baby will both be better off. Personally, except for the little I hear from my husband, I'm not involved and I don't really have a ton of idea what's going on, and that's okay. I know prior to getting whichever president who's getting confirmed into the White House, I guarantee I will find out who that is going to be. But the drama in between is not my problem. The media certainly does not exist to make me feel good, certainly doesn't exist to make you feel good. It's the complete opposite. They are going out of their way to stress you out, so you continually want to listen more, and you're continually outraged because that's what they want. It's part of their agenda, and it's sadly this perpetual cycle. So it's not really good for anyone, especially you, and especially not your baby, because you know what? By the time your baby arrives, this is probably all going to be way behind you, and whether you're stressed or not, doesn't matter. Hopefully the world is not over. Hopefully we're not in a civil war. If it is, deal with it then. We're not there yet. So here are my suggestions for de-stressing, especially for the times that we're currently living in. So as I kind of mentioned a minute ago, don't watch or read the news at all. They're not going to tell you good things. I guarantee you'll eventually find out what you need to, whether it's information on the pandemic or what's happening with the election. It's not your problem. You know everything you need to right now, and any major new discoveries, I'm sure you'll be told somehow. So that's number one. Two, if all of your friends talk about the election, the pandemic, all of these doomsday things on social media, take a break from it. If you don't think that you can do that, one of the great things to do that I know you can do on Facebook is to basically unfollow all your friends, or unfollow the people that are constantly posting about it. You can always, especially if you want to see, you know, what somebody is up to, just click on them and find out what they're up to, see what they're doing in the world. Instagram, I actually do find to be much less political, but I imagine it also depends on who you follow. Personally, I know my Facebook feed is all about politics. My Instagram feed, because of who I follow, it's mostly health related. And the only reason I actually keep my Facebook account is because I'm part of several really supportive groups on Facebook. So if that's the case, then, you know, they also have that groups tab. So pay attention to that. But if there's anything that is super dramatic or, you know, super controversial, which there's so much going on these days, I do recommend just trying to get all of that, remove all the drama, all the negative messages from your page. You just don't need that in your life. So number three is to focus on what you can control. That's primarily, I mean, I talked a little bit about this before, but anything that you can't control, don't put your mind and your energy on. It's just not worth it. Next, I find gratitude is actually a really, there's tons of studies that come out about all the time about how important gratitude is. So focus on the things that you have and the things that you are grateful for rather than the things that you don't have. This generally as a practice will make you a much happier person. One of the things that we do at the dinner table every day is we say what we're grateful for. And it's a great practice. My son, who's 2, who's barely talking, he comes up with something all the time. Most recently, he's grateful every night for the moon, and usually his friends and his granny. So that's actually, especially if you have young kids, it's a great thing to get them doing as early as possible. Next, I would say taking deep breaths. That is really great to just ultimately trigger your parasympathetic nervous system. And even if you feel stressed, it will convince your body that you're not. So my biggest takeaway or my biggest tip for taking deep breaths is you want to breathe out longer than you're breathing in. So there's something called the 5-5-7 breath. You basically breathe in for 5, hold for 5, breathe out for 7. You can do that with 4-4-6, or another big common breath is breathe in for 4 and out for 8. One note about deep breathing, which I recommend definitely before each meal, just because it gets you into the rest and digest state rather than if you're go, 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 go all the time, is to, in general, breathe into your belly, not your chest. You want there are a number of reasons for that, but when you breathe into your chest and not out into your belly, you are activating the sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response. So that would be counterproductive. So deep breaths with your belly, longer on the out breath. Next, I would say meditation. If you don't have a meditation practice, you might want to start one. There's a lot that I could say about meditation. Some people, it's really just not for. Some people swear by it. It does have really great proven effects for your brain. So that could be something that you might want to start incorporating in the morning, especially before you start your day, because if you start your day on a de-stressing note, most likely you might stay that way throughout the day. And last, just do things that de-stress you. So take a warm bath with candles, go for a walk, make an appointment and get a facial. I don't know actually if float places are open, but that is an amazing relaxation experience. So that's something I definitely recommend, especially when you're pregnant, because it's very much like the womb, but you just lay in a warm salt water bath for about an hour. Go out on a date night, read a book, do some yoga, anything that gets you relaxing. that's what you should spend your time and focus on doing. So I hope that you decide to take some of these tips and try to deconnect from the crazy, controversial, polar world that we're living in right now and take care of you in order to take care of your baby and yourself. So that's it. If you enjoyed this, please hit like, comment, and let me know what you do to de-stress that makes you feel really good. And subscribe if you haven't already. And hopefully I will see you again. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.